Okay, so here's my honest review on the Candace Owens, Andrew Wilson debate. Now, bear in mind, I'm neither for or against any of them. Like, I'm super neutral. I'm not a Candace Owens fan, neither am I an Andrew Wilson's fan. So I'm speaking solely based on what I watched for like the 3 hours plus. The first question that will be proposed is, did Andrew win? And did he achieve what he set out to achieve? Now, on paper, people will say he achieved his goal. He went there, sat down in front of Candace Owens, asked her, is there any evidence? And she basically said, this is more of my view, more than evidence. Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm just trying to simplify it for you. So technically, he won, technically on paper. However, for the people that are pro Andrew Wilson, it probably didn't feel like he won. It didn't feel like a win to them. And the reason being is because I think a lot of those people wanted to see him go and humiliate Candace Owens. And he didn't do that. Like, that's what people really wanted to see. They wanted to see a bit of the entertainment where he said so much that it now would make certain Candace Owens fans reconsider following her and whatnot. And I personally don't believe that was achieved. A lot of the people that follow Candace Owens are still going to follow Candace Owens. The needle wasn't moved in trying to show her in any type of fraudulent way. If that's what he had planned, he didn't achieve that. And I think the real issue why he didn't achieve that was because Andrew Wilson's debating style, from what I've seen throughout a few of the interviews and debates he's done, his approach is rather passive-aggressive, interrupt you. When you're about to make a good point against him, he'll do this like nervous laugh and like shout over you while he's nervous laughing.
I didn't get everything handed to me in the beginning.
But you're still a dude.
I'm not a I'm not a
How is that not?
It's online. There's a difference between actually going around and having sex and getting money with other people.
Then why, when I gave you the example, did you say that was still a prostitute?
I'm saying online, but you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to meet up with anyone.
Why would that matter?
Because that is a real prostitute. By definition, that is a
prostitute is somebody who sells sexual favors for money.
You can in Nevada.
What is the actual distinction here between?
It doesn't. The difference.
It doesn't matter.
Listen, wait. Can I finish? Okay, listen.
To kind of like throw off the audience from paying attention to the opposition's point, which is about to be made, there's a few deflection tactics in regards to semantics that he may use to get you away from the topic if he feels like he's losing. All of those tactics that he uses usually in debate, he wasn't able to use here. And I think the reason why he wasn't able to use them here is because Candace Owens' legal team or team that she has, they would have done research on this guy. And before she agreed to this deal, to do this debate, they would have put stipulations in place to make sure Andrew Wilson can't do those usual blood sport, off the cuff, wild free-for-all tactics against her in this discussion. So the legal team would have had in place that, one, you can't interrupt each other. Okay, if you do, the discussion is going to be pulled back until the person who was initially speaking finishes. This is going to be a really professional debate. You're not going to be able to perform those scatty tactics, and both of us are going to be heard out fully and accordingly. So when Candace Owens is talking and she's saying a few statements, Andrew Wilson couldn't really interrupt her because she would turn around and say, hold on a minute, let me finish. This is not a blood sport. I'm paraphrasing right now. But she'd make it clear to him that she's going to finish her sentence. And because he wasn't allowed to then interrupt, he wasn't then able to lead to the usual wildcard tactics that he usually does on, say, shows like when he's on Piers Morgan or when he's sat on, I believe it's the Whatever podcast, debating against OnlyFans girls and sex workers. Those women are not very fluent in debate, so they'll get sporadic with him, and then obviously he absorbs that and gets sporadic with them, which has potentially made him popular in this internet space amongst his viewers, because those are the tactics, those blood sport free-for-all tactics that he uses. That's his debate style. However, if you stop him from interrupting, he can't get that debate style going. And this is why you saw a very tame, calm, laid back Andrew that you don't usually see in his debates, because Candace Owens' legal team nullified all of those shady preschool tactics. Another thing that Candace Owen did, which I found quite intelligent, because she now has the ability to state her full sentence without interruption, and if he does interrupt her, she will pull him up and then finish her sentence. What this then allowed her to do is explain what Andrew Wilson was potentially trying to do in the debate to try and catch her out or be childish to try and make it look like he's winning. So now that she's got the floor to speak fully, she would then explain a tactic that Andrew is trying to do in that moment. And because she explained it, that then put Andrew in a position where he couldn't do that said tactic, what he was trying to do.
Go ahead.
You don't have to put your fingers up. I can do that.
Name them.
Yeah, sure.
Name them.
The first charge is aggravated murder because that's what carries a death sentence in the
murder.
state of Utah. No,
Next.
that's not. That is literally not murder.
Okay.
And
Next.
so just for people, I don't have to do it in a time limit. There's nothing going on. And just to explain to people the difference of why that really matters and shows that he doesn't actually care about this at all is because aggravated murder, it's narrowly defined and because it carries a death sentence. I'm going to answer the question.
Okay,
You're just going to recognize that your strategy of thinking that people are intimidated when you try to put a time constraint doesn't work, and you'll be better the next time you debate someone.
I got it. Give me the other ones.
The more you cut me off, the longer I'll take. Do you want to just wait for me to finish of why that's a big difference so that people don't walk away?
No, I just want you to list the charges.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. You just don't get to pretend that there's a time constraint for me to do that.
Well, how long does it take you to list 7 charges?
Because I'm speaking. You just got to.
It sounds like you're just delaying it because you don't know them.
I know all 7 of them.
Then
and I'm going to say
them.
again, because you're going to get embarrassed. You don't have to rush this. I'm also showing an example of a very flawed debate strategy. I actually am under no time constraint. I see the bad thing is when you try to be an a-hole and it doesn't work. That debate strategy of thinking that you have to speak faster or somebody puts your hand up and they try to pretend like it's some sport. I think he thinks it's a blood sport. It's not. It's about being right and being principled when you're engaging. And you can make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but at least be genuine in pretending that you care about this case enough to know one of the 7 charges.
Because she's now explained it, he can't now use it because the viewer is now aware of what he's trying to do. So he wasn't able to do any of those tactics that he wanted to do because he would have looked stupid, especially when Candace Owens has just explained this is what he's about to do. So from a fanfare point of view, if you're a fan of Andrew Wilson and you wanted him to go in there and go to town on Candace Owens, he failed at that. He couldn't get going, Cheap merry-go-round tactics versus an extremely highly literate woman who's basically a cut above when it comes to the verbal presentation. It's just not going to work on her, especially when these particular rules are in place. And these rules are not anything out of the ordinary. This is how debate should go. It shouldn't be a big interruption game. I understand people love that back and forth tennis game, but technically this is how interviews should be done. People get their full sentences out because once their full sentence is out and they're not being interrupted, it makes it harder for people to use those cheap tricks of interrupting you because they're scared you're going to make a good point, or trying to nervous laugh and shout over you to make the viewer not pay attention to your side and pay attention more to the theatrics of the discussion because that said person knows they're losing, so they have to do balloons and confetti to make it look like they've won even though they haven't. So on paper, did Andrew Wilson technically win? If his mission was just to solely prove that there wasn't actually any groundbreaking evidence and it was just more of a view from Candace Owens' sources and, from what the information she's been given, but it's not been proven yet, mission complete. But that's not what people really wanted to see, especially now that you've just gone and paid her $300,000 to sit down with you. This was a win for Candace Owens, especially with what happened towards the end. Now, I explained this in the last video, but if anything, Candace Owens looks better off than Andrew Wilson because she got him at the end where a lot of people are calling it a gotcha, but it wasn't a gotcha. It couldn't have been a gotcha because the question that built up to her asking, do you know even just one of the charges that Tyler Robinson has been charged with? Can you just name one? That wasn't the initial question. The initial question was, which one of the 7 charges, or if not all of them, do you believe Tyler Robinson is guilty of? And then what that led to is Andrew Wilson turning around and saying, put the list of them up on the telly that we can't see, that was basically they were able to look at, and get them up and then I'll explain. And then that's what led her to turn around and say, hang on a minute, don't you even know them? And then it led to this nervous chuckle from Andrew Wilson saying, oh, is this you gotcha? Like he's going into what he usually does now, the whole nervous laugh trying to get out of it. But Candace kept him on topic. So she turned around and just narrowed it down. She said, hang on a minute, like, okay, if you can't name 7, just name me one. And he couldn't. He then just, what made it more embarrassing is that when she asked him, do you know the 7 charges? He said, of course.
Well, do you know any of the charges that he's up for right now?
Yeah, of course.
His literal words were, of course. So then she said, okay, name me one. And then he's turned around and said, I think it's murder. And she said, no, that's not correct. Because there is an actual difference between aggravated murder and first-degree murder, second-degree murder. There's different charges. So Candace was getting a bit technical there, but in actual fact, she was right. And so when she asked him to name one, he's turned around and tried to do a gotcha back by saying, well, you name all of them. You name all of them then. If you're claiming that I don't know them, show me that you know them. And she said, as long as you name one, I'll do it. He failed at that, and then she went on to name all 7. But at the time she was trying to name all 7, he was trying to interrupt her and make her look stupid. So when she named the first charge, he said, okay, that's one, next. And then she was like, hang on, hold on, you don't get to rush me. And then he tried to allude to the fact that she may not know, as if that was some form of got you back. But she was like, no, you're not going to rush me. You're not going to intimidate me into stating things quickly just because you're embarrassed right now and nervous. I'm going to get my view out, and I have to also explain to the audience what I mean in regards to these things. Because she wanted to show in that moment that Andrew Wilson doesn't really know anything about this case. If you don't know the 7 charges from a basic standpoint, what have you really researched about this case? You didn't even know that. So really, you're not looking at any documents. You're not looking at anything. But your initial claim to Candace Owens was the evidence is overwhelming. How can you claim the evidence is overwhelming when you don't even know the charges that Tyler Robertson is being charged for? So how would you state that? What, overwhelming for the 7 charges? Like, you don't even know what the charges are. So how can you say it's overwhelming? And that there was the penny drop. That there showed that Andrew Wilson is a grifter. And really, he only wanted to do this to just be in a room with people like Candace Owens because, again, it brings exposure to him. Her fans, who may have left her now because there's people out there that may think she didn't do a good performance, may now consider wanting to follow him, and vice versa. He's got a fan base that may now want to go and follow Candace Owens. It's all a money transaction thing when it comes to YouTube and, you know, these content creators and content creation. It's about views and revenue. But what it showed me is that Andrew Wilson was out of his depth. He's not built for this conversation. He has a following, you know, he's got followings. I believe I went to his channel at one point just to see. And I remember he had like 7,000 viewers just watching him sitting there while he was smoking cigarettes, talking. He's got quite a big following. However, when it comes to this level of debate, his best option is to just go back to sitting on a panel with a bunch of sex workers, just being sporadic, going back and forth at them, nervous, laughing at them, shouting at them, interrupting, because that debate style works good over there. It can potentially work good on places like Piers Morgan Uncensored, which she's been on. It doesn't work in this setting here. It doesn't work. Not with the likes of someone of Candace Owens. Her legal team or team behind her would have been fully versed on your debate style, how you behave. And maybe one of the rules, I heard one of the rules was she didn't want him smoking around her because she's like 6-7 months pregnant. Now that's fair. She's pregnant. She doesn't want to be inhaling another person's smoke when she doesn't have to in her own home. But also, playing devil's advocate, maybe it was a tactic to stop him from smoking because Andrew Wilson potentially may not have been able to focus so much without smoking. I mean, the guy pretty much kept shaking his leg throughout the whole debate. You're like, he shook it any further, his shoe probably would have fallen off. But anyway, interesting debate. If you didn't watch it, go watch it. Then you can see if what I'm saying is right or wrong or whatnot. But anyway, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you on the next one.